Hello friends, this is Gangadhar. In this video, I am going to deal with different types of angles. In the previous video, we learnt about the definition of angle and the way to measure an angle. Now, in this video, we are going to discuss about different types of angles based on measurements and then based on the pair of angles, and the third one based on the geometrical type. See, first of all, based on the measurement, there are different types of angles. See, zero angle whose measurement is 0 degrees, acute angle whose measurement is less than 90, right angle whose measurement is of 90 degrees, obtuse if the measure of the angle is in between 90 and 180, straight if the measure is 180, reflex if the measure is in between 180 to 360, and complete if the measure is 360 degrees. These types of angles usually we face in different types of complex situations also. So geometry is basically a language of God. So since it's a language, we need to learn its terminology first. So as a part of the terminology, these are the different types of angles. If the angle is zero angle whose measure is 0 degrees, there is no rotation between the initial ray and the final ray. It is indicated like this. Usually we observe this in a clock, the angle between the two hands if the time is some 12 o'clock, right? And acute angle whose measurement is less than 90. See, the rotation between the second ray with the first ray is less than 90 degrees and 90 degrees right angle, and this is obtuse angle whose measurement is more than 90, and straight angle, so it forms an exact 180 degrees which indicates a half of the complete rotation, and reflex angle is more than 180 whose indication is like this. Complete angle, it indicates one complete rotation. So a complete rotation is nothing but complete angle whose measurement is 360 degrees. Usually in clocks, zero angle is observed at 12 o'clock, and if you observe at 3 o'clock, the angle between the two hands is of 90 degrees, and at 6 o'clock, the angle between the two hands of the clock is of 180 degrees, nothing but straight angle. And if you observe at 4 o'clock, the angle between the two hands of the clock is more than 90 degrees. At 3 it is 90, at 4 it is more than 90, and we call it as an obtuse angle, right? And at 2 o'clock, whose measurement is less than 90, we call the angle between the two hands as acute angle. So these are the different types of angles. All these angles are formed in a clock between two hands if we observe, right? See, after these types of angles based on their measurement, we have some more types of angles based on their pair of angles. See, thus a pair of angles are called complementary angles if sum of the angles is 90 degrees. Complementary angles, if sum of two angles is 90 degrees, then one angle is called the complement of the other. If alpha plus beta is 90 degrees, alpha and beta are called complementary angles. Alpha is called complementary of beta, whereas beta is called complementary of alpha. For 40 degrees, its complementary angle is 50 degrees. And for something like 45 degrees, its complementary angle is again 45 degrees because the summation is 90. And for zero angle, the complementary angle is nothing but right angle because the sum of those two angles is 90 degrees. So a pair of angles are said to be complementary if alpha plus beta is 90 degrees. And after that complementary angles, we need to learn about the supplementary angles. Supplementary angles. A pair of angles are said to be supplementary if sum of those angles is 180 degrees. If sum of two angles is 180, one angle is called the supplement of other. And it is very clear that the supplement of 110 degrees is 70 degrees because the summation is 180. And the supplement of 90 degrees minus theta is 90 degrees plus theta. If you observe, the sum of those two angles is 180 degrees, as it clearly indicates that the supplement of an acute angle is obtuse angle because it is acute and that is obtuse, and the supplement of a right angle is again a right angle because the summation is 180 degrees. So usually two angles are said to be supplementary if the sum of those two angles is 180 degrees. And then conjugate angles. In this sequence, After complementary and supplementary, we come across with conjugate angles. Conjugate angles means a pair of angles are said to be conjugate if sum of those two angles is 360 degrees. One angle is said to be the conjugate of the other if the sum of those two angles is 360 degrees, right? So types of angles initially based on the measurement, and afterwards a pair of angles are said to be complementary, supplementary and then conjugate if the sum of those two angles is 90 or 180 or 360. After that, uh, after that some more types based on the geometrical shape, and a pair of angles are said to be adjacent angles. The name itself is suggesting that the angles are said to be adjacent. See, if you observe one angle is this one, right? Then I am going to consider another angle which is adjacent to this angle. If this angle is some alpha, another angle which is adjacent to this one is said to be this pair is said to be adjacent angles. If these two angles are adjacent, then it is clear that for these two angles there is one common side or one common arm. So finally two angles are said to be adjacent if those two have one common arm. And after that we need to discuss about linear pair of angles. Linear pair of angles are nothing but adjacent angles on a straight line. See, basically linear pair of angles are adjacent angles and those angles are formed on a straight line. So for suppose if we have a line like this, and at any point if you form two angles like some alpha and beta, these two angles are adjacent to each other, and since these two angles are in a line, these two angles are said to be linear pair. Since these two angles are on a line at a point, sum of those two angles is clearly 180, which forms a straight angle. So we say that linear pair of angles are supplementary. See, it's very clear that linear pair of angles are supplementary, but supplementary angles need not be linear pair. After these two types, adjacent angles and the linear pair of angles, another important name which is nothing but vertically opposite angles. A very frequently used thing, vertically opposite angles. See, if two lines intersect at an instant, then totally there are four angles are formed, like 1, 2, 3, 4. See, if two lines intersect each other, then four angles are formed. These 1 and 3 are opposite to each other, 2 and 4 are opposite to each other. So the pair of angles 1, 3 is said to be vertically opposite angles, and the pair of angles 2, 4 also said to be vertically opposite angles. And it is very clear that if you observe here, since this is a line and on this line 1 and 2 are adjacent on this line, so as we discussed, this 1, 2 are linear pair. So sum of the measures of 1 and 2 is 180 degrees. And again if you observe, this is also a line and 2 and 3 are also linear pair. So again 2 plus 3 is also 180. And if you observe these two and if you subtract, these two will get cancelled, these two will get cancelled, you get that angle 1 is equal to angle 3. Initially we mentioned that 1 and 3 are vertically opposite, 2 and 4 are also vertically opposite, and after this discussion it is very clear that this pair of vertically opposite angles are equal, and then this pair of vertically opposite angles are also equal. So we finally conclude that if two lines intersect one another, if one angle is theta, its vertically opposite angle also theta, and its adjacent angle is 180 minus theta, and this angle is also 180 minus theta. So if at anywhere, if we face this type of situation, we need to identify first that these opposite angles are equal as well as these opposite angles are also equal. Finally, what we conclude that vertically opposite angles are equal. We use this notation frequently in different situations, right? So these are the vertically opposite angles. So finally, there are different types of angles based on measurement, based on the pairs, and based on the geometrical identity, right? So, and after that, if we have different angles formed on a line at a point, sum of all those angles is 180 degrees. For suppose it is a line and at a particular point, divide the total thing into different angles. If suppose this is x degrees and this is some x plus 10 degrees and this is some 40 degrees and if it is some 30 degrees. All these angles are formed at a point on a line. So all these angles form a straight angle. So sum of all these angles is 180 degrees. So if you add all these things, 40 plus 30 is 70, plus 10 is 80. So 2x plus 80 is equals to 180, and from this it is clear that x is 50 degrees. So these are the very simple problems based on the based on the angles, right? And the same way, if we form different angles at a point, these are the angles at a point on a line which forms a straight angle. And at a point, if we divide the total space into different parts, okay, all these parts will make different angles, many angles as per the problem. All these angles together will form a complete angle, which is nothing but 360 degrees. If you write this as some x and this is some x plus 10, this is of some x plus 10, this is some x plus 20, and this is some x plus 30. And we need to calculate the measure of the angle x. And it is very clear that all these angles are formed at a point which forms a complete rotation, complete angle, which is nothing but 360 degrees. So if you add all these things, x, and it is 5x, 30 plus 20, 50 plus 10, 60 plus 10, 70, 5x plus 70 is equals to 360, and from there 5x is equals to 290, and x is equals to 5 5s and then 5 8s. So the measure of angle x is 58 degrees. So this is another simple problem based on the angles. So basically what we need to memorize from this: types of angles, and then complementary, supplementary, conjugate angles, and then adjacent angles, linear pair, vertically opposite angles. And after that, angles formed at a point on a straight line is always 180 degrees. Angles formed at a point all together will make a complete angle which is 360 degrees. This is a very basic idea about the angles which we can use in different problems, right? Thank you.